Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
Today, we're sharing 5 stories. First, why Texas Instruments is making a $60 billion bet on older chip technology for Apple, a move that immediately sent its stock plummeting 13%. Then, we'll dive into the hypersonic arms race, where Russia's new Avangard missile hits Mach 27, and why the US is building a satellite network just to stand a chance. After that, how Roborock plans to slash its $2,600 AI robot to just a few $100 and build a robot app store for companies like Tesla. We'll also cover the newly revealed $97 billion hostile takeover bid, where Elon Musk tried to recruit his rival, Mark Zuckerberg, to buy out their competitor, OpenAI. And finally, we'll look at the federal probe investigating if Tesla is failing to report its self-driving crashes, a major problem for Elon Musk's robotaxi ambitions. A company just made a $60 billion bet on the future right after its market share. In the words of one analyst, fell off a cliff. The company is Texas Instruments, and their bet is a massive US manufacturing megaproject. And now they've landed the biggest customer you can get, Apple. Now, the local impact of this is where the situation gets really intense. When we say massive, we mean it. These semiconductor factories or fabs are incredibly resource intensive. A single facility can use up to 4.8 million gallons of water per day for processes like wafer cleaning and cooling. For a state like Texas, which already faces challenges with its power grid and water supply, this industrial boom is a massive stress test on its essential infrastructure. That's right, Apple has just vowed to make critical foundation semiconductors for its iPhones at these new American factories. So you might be wondering what these critical foundation chips actually are. They're not the main brain of the iPhone, the super advanced processor. Actually, they are the unsung heroes of your device, things like power management circuits and analog chips that handle everything from battery life to how your screen responds to touch. They are absolutely essential. And this move is a huge part of Apple's strategy to de-risk its supply chain. This move comes as a new 100% tariff on foreign-made chips is set to completely upend the global supply chain. This is also being paired with major government incentives. We're talking about the Chips and Science Act, which provides huge subsidies to bolster domestic production. In fact, Texas Instruments is set to receive up to $1.6 billion in direct federal funding for these new plants. In response, Apple isn't just making a small move. The company has boosted its US spending commitment to a staggering $600 billion over the next 4 years. The situation presents a fascinating duality, though. On one side, Texas Instruments is championing this American manufacturing revival, while on the other, it's carefully maintaining its huge global footprint. The company has manufacturing sites in Germany and China, and in 2024, about 20% of its automotive business revenue came directly from China. It's a delicate balancing act. The ink was barely dry on Texas Instruments' $60 billion announcement when its stock plummeted 13%. The market is spooked. One analyst put it bluntly, asking if customers are simply stockpiling chips out of fear with no guarantee of future demand. The core of the issue is this. Texas Instruments doesn't make the world's most advanced chips. Their components are essential, found in everything with a battery, but they've been losing ground. So the thing is, this is a deliberate strategy. They are betting big on what the industry calls legacy nodes, slightly older, but incredibly reliable and cost-effective chips that are perfect for cars, industrial equipment, and power management. The demand for these workhorse chips is enormous and growing. After struggling to meet demand in 2020, their share of the analog market dropped from nearly 20% to under 15%. Now, they are building 7 new US factories to increase their capacity 5-fold. It's an all-or-nothing gamble to undercut foreign rivals and win back the market. But as one expert warns, they're making a big bet on the fact that they regain share and that demand comes rocketing back. The final question is the most critical. If you don't regain that share, it's hard to justify building this much capacity. Speaking of high-stakes global competition, the next arena isn't about market share. It's about national survival. A new class of weapon is emerging that can travel at 2 miles per second. And right now, the West can't reliably stop it. This is the hypersonic arms race. And according to a bombshell report from the US Congressional Research Service, America's current defenses are insufficient to detect and track hypersonic weapons. You know, traditional ground-based radar is basically useless against these weapons until it's far too late. To solve this, the US is building a new defense architecture in space called the Hypersonic and Ballistic Tracking Space Sensor, or HBTSS. The idea is to use a network of satellites in low Earth orbit to provide a continuous bird's eye view, tracking these missiles from the moment they launch. It's a massive undertaking, but it's the only way to get the birth-to-death tracking needed to even have a chance at an intercept. These missiles fly at over 5 times the speed of sound, but their real threat is maneuverability. Unlike ballistic missiles that follow a predictable arc, hypersonics can change course mid-flight, hugging the terrain to evade radar until the final moments. And the global contest is not a close one. China and Russia are far ahead. While the West spent decades focused on counterinsurgency, Beijing and Moscow invested heavily in this next-generation technology. How far behind is the West? Well, the gap isn't just a matter of spending more money. The reality is the US is struggling with major industrial choke points. There's a critical shortage of hypersonic wind tunnels for testing and a lack of engineers with the highly specialised skills needed to build these systems. The former chief of Britain's secret intelligence service, Sir Alex Younger, admitted it plainly. The net result is that we failed to notice the massive rise of China as a military power. Russia claims its Avangard missile can reach a staggering Mach 27. Believe it or not, at those speeds, we're talking about temperatures that can hit 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. To keep the missile from disintegrating, it has to be built from exotic materials like ultra-high temperature ceramics materials like zirconium diboride that can withstand the blistering heat. President Vladimir Putin has declared it unstoppable. And this isn't just theory. Russia is now using Ukraine as a live testing ground for its new hypersonic speed Oreshnik missile, a weapon Putin says has the capacity to turn targets to dust. Meanwhile, China possesses the world's most powerful arsenal of hypersonics, recently unveiling its GDF-600 glide vehicle. The proliferation of these weapons poses a serious potential threat to the US naval presence in the South China Sea. This creates a terrifying new reality for military commanders. As one former Royal Navy commander put it, hypersonics haven't changed the nature of warfare, they've just altered the time frames. The defender's requirement to track and destroy an incoming missile is the same as before, you just have less time. This radical compression of time creates an entirely new pressure, the potential need to delegate launch authority to an AI. When human decision-making time shrinks from minutes to seconds, some fear we may be forced to rely on an algorithm to make the call, introducing the horrifying risk of an accidental war started by a computer error. This leads to the ultimate terrifying question for any nation on the receiving end of a launch. With only moments to react and no way to be certain, is the incoming warhead nuclear or is it conventional? This ambiguity fundamentally erodes the traditional doctrine of nuclear deterrence, increasing the risk of a catastrophic miscalculation in a crisis. We were just talking about the terrifying prospect of AI in warfare, but on a much lighter note, AI is also at the heart of a revolution happening right inside our homes. A company just revealed plans to take its $2,600 AI robot and slash the price to just a few $100. So how is a price drop that dramatic even possible? To do that, you can't just make things a little cheaper. You need a breakthrough. The secret lies in tackling the most expensive parts of a robot like this. The motors and actuators, the little joints and muscles that let it move, they can make up almost half the total cost. Researchers are now developing incredible, low-cost alternatives like 3D printed actuators that cost less than $200 and even soft, flexible actuators made from simple balloons and plastic that cost less than $1 each. This is the kind of manufacturing revolution needed to hit that mass market price point. The target is the mass market. After all, even with all the hype, robot vacuums have shockingly low adoption rates. In the United States, the penetration rate is just 22%. In China, the largest market by value, it's a tiny 5.6%. And here's where the situation takes a more complex turn. The company Roborock just reported a massive revenue surge of nearly 79%. But at the same time, its financial losses are getting deeper. They are going all in, more than doubling their spending on research and development and hiring nearly 200 new AI experts this year alone. This is a huge gamble, especially since initial reviews for their current high-end model, the Saro Z70, were unimpressed by tech sites like Wired and Mashable, who cited its hefty price tag. But the company's president, Kwon Gang, says if they only focus on the premium market, quote, in the end, we will have nothing. He claims the real challenge isn't the hardware, but the algorithms and the data needed to make these robots truly smart and affordable. And this is a critical point. When he says data, he's talking about something very specific. For a robot arm to learn how to pick up a sock or a stray cable without getting tangled, it needs to see tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of examples. Datasets like one called RH2T contain over 110,000 different manipulation sequences filmed in the real world. This is the kind of data Roborock needs to collect, which raises huge questions about privacy when these cameras are mapping and recording the inside of our homes. Now, get this. Roborock's ultimate goal isn't just to sell you a better vacuum. The company's president laid out a vision for the future where you might buy a humanoid robot from Tesla or Unitree or someone else entirely. But when that robot needs to clean, it will have to integrate Roborock's knowledge installed like an app. What he's really talking about is creating a robot app store. Think about it. Your phone is made by Apple or Samsung, but the apps are made by thousands of different developers. Roborock wants to be the go-to app for cleaning on any robot. The biggest hurdle is that there's no universal operating system for robots yet, but this is already being worked on. Groups like the IEEE Robotics and Automation Society are actively developing the standards needed to make this kind of interoperable a la carte robot future a reality. His final claim is the most audacious. In the area of cleaning, he says any future robot, quote, will be inseparable from Roborock. Now, Roborock's president mentioned Tesla's future robots. Speaking of which, Elon Musk has been making headlines for a very different reason, involving a secret attempt to take over the biggest name in A. A new court filing has just revealed that Musk tried to recruit his biggest rival, Mark Zuckerberg, for a hostile takeover. The target? Their other main competitor, OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. This attempted alliance between two of tech's biggest rivals tells you everything you need to know about the power of OpenAI. The threat it poses is so significant that it can turn fierce competitors into potential partners. It's a classic case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, revealing just how much pressure the rest of the industry feels to keep up. The filing shows Musk communicated with the Meta CEO about joining forces for a bid to buy the AI giant, and the price tag on this proposed mega deal was a jaw-dropping $97.4 billion. That $97 billion number wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It actually tells a story reflecting OpenAI's astronomical growth. For comparison, the company was valued at $157 billion in late 2024, and by March of 2025, that valuation had shot up to $300 billion. The bid's language also mentioned a restructuring or recapitalization, which suggests this wasn't just a simple buyout. It was likely a complex plan to dismantle OpenAI's unique and controversial hybrid structure, which combines a non-profit mission with a for-profit engine. This bombshell comes directly from the bitter legal war between Musk and OpenAI. How do we know this happened? OpenAI says Musk himself disclosed the communications with Zuckerberg during sworn interrogations. Now, OpenAI is asking a federal judge to force Meta to produce all documents related to the bid. OpenAI has previously called Musk's offer a sham bid designed solely to harm the AI startup. And Meta's response to being dragged into this fight, the court filing shows they're pushing back, telling OpenAI that it should get any relevant documents directly from Musk and his own AI startup, XAI. But that's not the whole picture. The real turning point in this saga is that this is just one battle in a much larger war. Musk is already suing OpenAI over its transition to a for-profit company. In response, OpenAI counter-swed Musk. When we place Musk's framing of this fight as a moral crusade alongside his attempt to team up with another hyper-capitalist giant like Meta, the contradiction becomes clear. It raises the question of whether this is about principle or if it's a purely competitive strategy to disrupt a major rival. A judge has already ruled that Musk must face claims that he attempted to harm the AI startup through press statements, social media posts, and his bid for the company's assets. A jury trial is now scheduled for the spring of 2026. This all begs the question, was this a genuine $97 billion attempt to control the world's leading AI lab? Or was it just another strategic attack in the high-stakes conflict for the future of artificial intelligence? Let's explore that for a second. If the bid had actually succeeded, it could have created an entirely different future for AI. Both Musk's XAI and Zuckerberg's Meta have championed open sourcing their AI models. A great example is Meta's Llama 3.1 model, which has been downloaded over 1 billion times. Had they gained control, they likely would have forced OpenAI to abandon its closed source product-focused strategy. This would have democratized access to the world's most powerful AI, potentially changing everything for developers, businesses, and the entire tech ecosystem. And while Musk is busy fighting his legal battles against OpenAI, another one of his companies, Tesla, is facing its own serious challenge from the federal government. Just as Elon Musk is pushing to put self-driving robotaxis on every street, the US government has launched a federal probe investigating if Tesla is failing to report its crashes. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the nation's top auto safety agency, just dropped a bombshell. According to their own documents, they've identified numerous crash reports from Tesla that were filed months late. Not days or weeks, but in some cases, several months or more after the incident. For perspective, automakers are legally required to report crashes involving automated driving systems within 5 days. But here's where it gets interesting. The legal language says the clock starts ticking within 5 days of the company becoming aware of the incident. This has led some safety experts to worry about a potential loophole. The concern is that it could create a perverse incentive for an automaker to design its data systems in a way that deliberately delays its own official knowledge of a crash, essentially giving them more time before they have to report it. Tesla says the massive delays were due to a data collection issue that has now been fixed. So what could a data collection issue actually mean? It's a very vague term. We're talking about the entire chain of information from the car's event data recorder, its black box, which logs things like speed and braking, to the telemetry system that beams that data back to Tesla's servers, and finally to the internal cloud processing that analyzes it. A failure anywhere in that chain doesn't just delay a report, it calls into question the fundamental reliability of the data they use to make the system safer. But the government isn't just taking their word for it. The agency is now launching a full audit query to figure out the real story. They're investigating the cause of the delays, the full scope, and whether Tesla neglected to report other crashes entirely. They're even checking if the reports Tesla did submit are missing required data. This couldn't come at a more critical time. Musk is on a global tour trying to persuade investors that Tesla is the undisputed leader in autonomous vehicles and that its systems are safe enough for fleets of robotaxis. The company has already launched manned services in Austin and the San Francisco Bay Area. This decision brings both benefits and comes with inherent risks, what you might call the robotaxi data paradox. The entire investment thesis for a robotaxi network, the very thing that gives Tesla its massive valuation, relies on a gigantic, accurately reported data set to prove safety and improve its AI. If the company is under investigation for failing to report crashes accurately and on time, it fundamentally undermines that data. It casts a shadow of doubt over their safety claims and could shake investor confidence to its core. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. A site that independently tracks Tesla-involved collisions, TeslaDeaths.com, has found at least 59 fatalities resulting from crashes where autopilot or the premium full self-driving system were considered a factor. This is so important because independent trackers like this play a critical role in holding automakers accountable. They provide an essential public counterbalance, especially when we now know that official reports submitted by the company can be flawed or massively delayed. These trackers compile data from news reports, police records, and other sources, creating a public record that isn't dependent on the company's own internal processes. It all begs the ultimate question. How can a company build the self-driving future of tomorrow if it's under federal investigation for not properly reporting the crashes of yesterday?
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.